Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for sparing your time for this session, which is titled Sport 2.0: The Power of Data and Community Building. And some of you may have attended previous sessions in this studio itself on sports subjects and more of digital technology and sports. So in that context, we'll continue some of the discussion which has happened earlier. And we have very capable and a very diverse set of speakers and panel members here. So we would like to hear from them in terms of their perspectives on this subject. So let's start. So as general person, all of us, we've of course, been, more of a spectator and audience, whether we are on the ground or we are watching it on television or a mobile or any other such device. And then we mostly tend to enjoy the performance on the field. Maybe our favorite team wins that particular match, or a favorite individual sports person, wins, then we are happy. If she or he loses, then we are sad. That's what most of us are exposed to so far as sports in terms of on-field performance. Typically, unless folks in this room maybe from the industry, you would know much more, but typically larger population is not particularly aware or interested to know what's happening, as long as they're happy with the performance. And the boundary between sports and entertainment, gradually has also kind of blurring. So that's the kind of background in which we are here today. But needless to say, there's much more beyond just the on-field performance that one gets to see. I'm talking of competitive sports in the entire sports domain. And some of those aspects we'll kind of pick up today in terms of what all goes specifically focused on data, use of data, and how all it is getting, in what ways it's getting used, and then of course the importance of fan or community in the entire scheme of things. So one of the earliest memory I have of this data in sports is actually, and most of us in this room I'm expecting would be aware of, is reading the book Moneyball, which is really 20 years ago. This book was, published written by Michael Lewis. Anybody, most of you aware of Moneyball? Yeah, okay. Many of you may not be. And then there was a movie, I think that was 2011 movie, Moneyball, based on the same book. And amongst other things, Brad Pitt, about whom all of us in the room would be far more familiar than the book maybe. He was in the main role of Billy Bean. So not getting into the full movie theme or the book summary, but essentially it was Billy Bean, a coach or a general manager of Oakland Athletics. It's a baseball team, not a sport which is played in any particular, significantly in our country. And Oakland Athletics was also not a very top performing team. They had a lot of constraints, especially financial constraints. So that book is more around how, Billy Bean and one of his associates and maybe a couple of more people, they devised new ways, new methods by using statistics. That's the word which was getting used those days, I suppose. And kind of analyzing some less, common parameters to scout for players, and often getting into disagreements with the traditional coaches who would go by more conventional parameters, and then things like on base percentage and those kind of things. So which was a novel thing 20 years ago. Now those things have become pretty much run of the mill. So that's my earliest memory of that. Oh, so much goes beyond sports and all that while watching the movie or reading the book. So that's where it is. And today's sports teams, they tend to use data and technology and everything, in all aspects, starting from talent scouting to managing the teams, the sports governance, on-field performance, player analysis, and of course injury mapping, and then many other things, which is what it is. Amongst one thing I would like to focus and then and we'll kickstart the discussion, is that building the community, and more commonly word is fan engagement and fan monetization. I'm talking of teams in leagues and at country level or regional level, city level. That's become one critical area where data is getting used more and more. And to hear more about that, I'll ask Sanket you. Sports Interactive, he's Group CTO and Chief Operating Officer. Correct me if I'm wrong there,
That's
but
pretty
much experience there. How data is getting used in fan acquisition,
sure.
retention,
Sure.
and so on and so forth. At an industry level, you could cover. We'll come back to you with what and you can take maybe to 4 minutes now, so we have fair bit of
Sure.
discussions.
Sure. Thanks, Jaideep, and thanks to IMAI for giving me the opportunity to speak at this event. Uh, I would like to start by saying, being data-driven is, a key to success to modern fan engagement. And, uh, when you look at platforms, there are ways in which we are able to uh, learn about fan behavior, how users are engaging onto the platform. And these help us, audience segments into what we call as fan cohorts. And, these fan cohorts are nothing but micro communities which are based on behavior and preferences. In the context of sport, uh, I can give you, examples of what fan cohorts mean. A flirt, a fan, and a fanatic. A flirt is somebody who's an observer, not a very deep engager with what's going on in the world of sport. A fan would be a slightly more engaged user, watches games, consumes content, etc. And a fanatic is a die-hard, passionate follower of the sport. But for each of these three personas, there are different strategies to address three key, problem statements or outcomes. One is acquisition, which is fan acquisition, fan retention, and fan monetization. Fan acquisition is about identifying fans basis their behavior and crafting campaigns by which they can be drawn in onto the platform and they can be converted to a signed up user, for example. Retention is where you are able to engage these existing fans by delivering experiences for which they would want to keep coming back. Whether it is personalization of content, whether it is gamification, or whether it is loyalty and rewards. And the third is monetization, which is a byproduct. Unless there is acquisition and there is sufficient retention, maybe you won't be able to get to monetization. But the byproduct is how do you convert these engaged users into revenue? How do you basically leverage these insights and maybe create targeted campaigns that drive actions for a user to buy merch, for example. So overall data, whether it is sports data, whether it is fan data, are essential for driving outcomes, whether it is for the sports fan or whether it's for the rights holders. For the sports fans, the outcomes are an enriched, engaged user experience. And for the rights holders, it's driving value across the board. So yeah, that's the role of data beyond the context that you set of on field. But there's so much more that's online, and we are drawing parallels from industries across retail, e-commerce, and trying to adapt those success stories to sport to drive acquisition, retention, commercialization for sports teams, leagues, federations, publishers, broadcasters. So yeah, that's what I can tell you.
And this is an industry which is kind of growing now with availability of technologies, cheaper data, etc. Is that how you see? I mean, in short, just yeah.
Yeah, of course. The ecosystem as far as sport is concerned has changed with so many leagues mushrooming. And yeah, so definitely, I mean, the market is expanding. A lot more content is being consumed on the internet, even as video. So yeah.
No, absolutely, yeah. A lot more content, definitely. Apart from sports, there are so many other things. Yeah, absolutely. Data is cheap. Devices are fairly affordable, if I may say so, and rest of the story we all know. Okay, now if you just taking the point of community, fan and community, and if we step for a moment beyond and besides the hardcore professional sports leagues and teams, etc. The entire gamut of sports as a wellness or a health enhancing a route to enhance the overall health profile of citizens, if I may take it at a global level or at a country level or any level. Which means that people, kids from single digit age to people who are senior citizens, and who senior citizens may not be able to participate in very active games, but some of them do, the relatively younger senior citizens, to other kinds of community building initiative. That is also very important to maintain the mental health as well as the physical health of our population and the citizens. So, Suhail, Hudle is more into community building by getting amateur and people who are not those about whom first thing we would tend to think is person is senior citizen or doesn't look absolutely fit to participate, but those amateurs and interested people, maybe I used to play 20 years before, now I haven't done. It's a very common story. We've got into the rigmarole of the day-to-day lives, and so are there? I know Hurdle is doing, but at a country level or at a regional level, are there enough initiatives to get those community together, people who are interested, people who, if given an opportunity, would like to participate, and they're not here to win any league or cups or whatever, but just for the sake of being engaged, being happy, etc. Is that something which is happening in the country?
I mean, I hope you guys can hear me. I can be louder or lesser. It's happening at at an insane level, right? I mean, in terms of just participation in sport, our whole thesis when we started out was that sport is among the most fun and entertaining forms of wellness, right? It's competitive. So the second I know that I have a chance to win something, right? Even if it's just bragging rights with a friend, my motivation levels go through the roof, right? I mean, and there is enough people out here, even in the audience and, across urban centers today and slowly filtering to rural areas where fitness and wellness is becoming extremely important, but it's extremely difficult to find interesting enough ways to do it, which don't require endless sort of motivation levels or, willpower, essentially. I am the prime example where I can't go to the gym for my, whatever, whether it's a New Year resolution or anything else. I can't run on a treadmill. I can't go for a morning walk. I can't go for a yoga session. But get me on a badminton court, get me on a cricket field, I have the time of my life. And the reason is that I'm not even thinking that I'm actually getting fitter in the process, right? I'm actually there to have fun. I'm actually there to enjoy with friends. I'm actually there for a social experience. And that's the trick. We are actually tricking people into playing a sport and getting healthier without them realizing it, because that's the only way you stick and do it for the long run, right? And then when these communities start springing up, when people start coming together, then the real science becomes, okay, what are the two kind of people that we want to make them meet? Because there are certain parameters, right? One, they will enjoy spending time with each other. Let's say they are similar age groups, similar backgrounds, similar professions. The other most important aspect is they need to enjoy the same sport and be a similar skill level, right? If two of us go for a game of badminton and one is a pro player, the other is just starting out, both of them will hate that 1 hour, right? And that's the biggest skill in terms of data that we are and we are very far from cracking it. I mean, it's the toughest problem to solve, but that's what we are working on towards, right? For example, today, I can sit here and tell you that that an 18-year-old college student in Thane, for example, is much more likely to play a certain sport versus the same 18-year-old college student in a Gurgaon, right? A 35-year-old woman is much more likely to play badminton versus a cricket. I mean, and some of these are more obvious than others, but when you see it in your data, it sort of almost proves your point, and and tells you that you're moving in the right direction. I know that if you want to start playing cricket, it'll take you 5 to 6 games before you get hooked to it. Versus if you start playing badminton, it'll be a 2-3 game process, right? If you're starting afresh. So these are the kind of data points that we look at from a community building aspect, that who can we get together to start playing, and so that they are of a similar skill level, a similar background, and it's a more of social experience than sort of an exercise or a workout.
Okay, thanks very much, which was important to highlight, because we tend to, in these discussions, mostly focus on cricket and IPL and competitive sports and Barcelona and all that. There's probably not much in the Indian football to give that level of experience.
Yeah, so, I mean, in fact, we are happiest when we see two people playing who are horrible at it.
Right? Which is good, which is what most of us in the room, with due regards to ladies and gentlemen, are what it is. We none of us are, or not, I shouldn't say in this room, but I think most of us are not playing at cricket at IPL or even Ranji level or whatever, even university levels. For them, it's important. And continuing on that, kind of a less professional sports, Manas from Noise, which is amongst the top wearables company, we are all familiar with the brand. So I'll come to the athlete part maybe in the second round, but for this profile of people, or even general people, how is wearable, you of course have the most commonly known product that you have is smartwatch, but then the rings and other things are there.
Sure.
Not specifically asking on anything to do with noise per se right now, we can come back on that, but how do you think wearable is helping people getting more conscious about health and sports and fitness, and how is that kind of enhancing over a period of time the overall health profile and the agility profile of the population? I know it's a tech and sports, but I'm clearly asking because we'll come back to the athlete performance and all those things in a while. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'm audible. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. See, the one nuance which we have realized, and I have also realized, is that health and fitness as a concept is broken, because the only way to get healthy is the hard way. You have to do the right thing consistently over and again, right? And most people want to just go to a gym or a hospital and get fit and get healthy, right? These are the two protocols. It operates at extreme, right? So the easiest next step for everyone, Jaideep, is to copy a protocol. Tell me what Virat Kohli eats, and I'll eat that. Tell me what what Michael Phelps is doing, and I'll do that. But it doesn't work that way. That's the hardest protocol, because the moment you start copying Hrithik Roshan or Virat Kohli, it will not work, because all our physicalities are very, very different. How we're built are very, very different. Our stress levels are very different. How we sleep, where we work. So it's very individualistic, right? So the only way to actually get healthy and fitter is through democratization of data, which starts with your wearable, right? So any kind of wearable at this point of time will be able to give you basic insights, whether it's steps, distance, calorie, or advanced would be, let's say, your sleep, your HRV, right? It will start democratizing that data for you. And that's where self-awareness and improvement will come, because that's the best way to kind of get fitter. It's a journey, right? You can't just take this step by just going to a YouTube video and just copying, let's say, Brian Johnson or Haberman or Virat Kohli. So you have to go through the path, and the path gets cleared through data. And that's where a lot of these wearables today are able to democratize and make it accessible at all price points and accurately for you for different age groups, whether it's kids, whether it's senior citizens, whether it's a female, whether it's a male. All kinds of health data is easily accessible to you on your app through a wearable that you're wearing, right? The only effort you need to do is charge it, right? I mean, and we also know that the battery is getting better, the technology is getting better. So that's the path that a wearable solves today. It's easily accessible, it's comfortable, and of course with AI and a lot of other technology, it's going to the next level. But at a grassroots level, I mean, for anyone to even track their steps, distance, calorie, we have our mobile phones, right? And it has accelerometer and gyrometer, so you can calculate that, right? So it's that accessible. So the path is getting cleared very easily. The accessibility, the price point, the accuracy is what people are now working on. And form factors are also getting very interesting, right? So we have smart rings now. We have smart bands now, right? So there are different use cases for different set of people. So I think it's getting very interesting from that standpoint, and we are very excited. And when we see global companies building great products, or Indian companies also bringing great products, that is one insight we always get, that how do we make this accessible? How do we make this more accurate? And how do we make this more price conscious so that everyone can access it, right? Across the touch points.
That's very useful, Manas. Essentially, I think we all picked up, one is democratization, second is on accessibility, and third is affordability. At price points, I would think Indian brands and wearables are far more affordable, with due respect, compared to the global brands, which is usually beyond the affordability levels of most people. We'll actually pause here and take some 1 or 2 points, questions from the respected audience members. So if you thought we will do it at the last 5 minutes, that was not the plan from the beginning itself. So for any points, questions, ladies at the back, maybe you could focus a little bit here on any questions, points, suggestions for the panel. None so far. I mean, don't tell me I never gave an opportunity. At least it helps you look up from neck down into the mobile screen. That was also one of the side intent. Okay, all right. We'll proceed. We'll again come back to you if there's some more points that which emerge, and you have any comment or a question to kind of pose. Okay, we'll one sports, and then correct me. I think one sports. Talking of now professional sports, which has possibly the highest, if not the highest, amongst the highest, data generation and usage is possibly motor racing. That's what, looks like. Not that I've read this in this one line anywhere, but from what my understanding is, I spent several years with one of the global consulting companies, which had a tie-up with McLaren for data analytics, and for sake of information, I used to head that vertical. So, and this obviously was a global tie-up. And then we got a little bit more into this and figured out that, leave aside, labs in, Stanford, etc., with full respect, but F1, motorsports companies, they are, big time in data analytics. Each F1 race, each car generates about, 1 terabyte just for that 2 days of. There are, I think, 24 F1 events happening through the year, usually weekends. And each weekend, whenever it happens, one car generates 1 terabyte of data. 1 terabyte is a million MB. One car, and if there are 20 cars, there are, I think, usually 20, and then multiply that. And then you add all the other data, non-telemetry, which is your wind tunnel data and video data. It's like a huge set of data to manage. So one car, one weekend is like 4 laptops you need just to store that data. If each laptop is say 256 GB, just to give a sense of how much is 1 terabyte, one car, 2 days weekend in one race. I mean one location event. So that's what it is, and there's a lot of material available if you want to know how they do analytics and how the input online goes to the car factories. It not only goes to their team sitting in the ground, it goes to the car factory, which may be in another country, and they do things change online, real time. It's the telemetry data. So data is gradually, and it started from stopwatch and chalkboard 25 years ago. From there, we've got, each car has got 300 sensors. I also read it. Each car has got 300 sensors, and then the IoT devices all along the tracks, track temperature, tire pressure, and then there are sensors on the driver's body. All the wearable comes in there. How is for not to F1 only, for professional sports at that level, any professional for global level, India level, how do you kind of give an example from Sports Interactive. How are you using using all these technologies, and any discussion without referring to AI is incomplete.
Sure, sure.
How are you using, maybe some specific example you can give. I'll come to you also the same question. Data for in the case of your own organization, and same with you.
Sure. So I will like to cite an example of how we are trying to power automated, personalized video content at scale using AI and data. Now, as a data collection company, we capture a ton of data. Now, whether that's through manual processes or using artificial intelligence, we are sitting on top of a lot of data which can essentially help automate a lot of functions that humans would otherwise do, right? So the example that I'm coming to is, a fan. Let's say there's a Messi fan, Lionel Messi fan, and he will naturally be drawn towards seeing a curated video being put out of Messi's best goals in the season, or Virat Kohli fan wanting to see his best sixes and boundaries through the season, or a Jasprit Bumrah fan wanting to see his best Yorkers bowled at the death, where he hit the base of the stump. Literally, what I'm talking about are examples of data points also that are going in, right? And when you marry this with AI, which is, and to give you some context, when I talk about video creation and video curation, this is about creating video content such as highlights, reels, key moments, which otherwise somebody had to manually do. So let's say there's a game which is an ODI or a T20, and somebody is actually sitting through and saying this is a 4, this is a 6, blah, blah. With the advent of AI and automated ways of collecting data, this process has been condensed to a matter of seconds. So even if the system does not have, and again, let's say a platform, it's an OTT platform that has not put out this data or this video already of Messi's best goals, but I as a fan want to see it. At least the tech and tools of today let you create this on the fly. This is a video on the fly that I'm talking about because it's layered with the ability that AI has provided. Ki, if it's cricket, where should the ball start? Where should the ball end? What is the context of the event that I'm trying to capture? The emotions of the player, the emotions of the spectators. So a visually appealing clip. And layered with that is sports data, which is giving extra context. Ki, when was this in the context of cricket also? Ki, this boundary that was hit, was this under pressure? Or was this when the game was just meandering? And because this boundary was hit under pressure, this can classify as an important event or a good 4 that he may have, right? So all these are nuances of data that is being collected. And it's just enabling us to do a lot more things at scale which otherwise wouldn't have been possible. And by giving such experiences on the back of data plus AI, it's opening new doors for rights holders to unlock, the value of their rights, as well as fans to engage a lot more deeper, because what used to happen on the back end as to somebody putting out content, we are giving that power in the hands of the user, basis everything that exists in the back end. And just giving that power, saying, hey, go and create whatever you want on the fly.
Are you saying, sorry, I'm just definitely for my better understanding and also for some of our friends here, are you saying if I want to see as a fan of, you mentioned, say Virat Kohli, that's more common name, or anybody. So I want to see, especially in view of recent performance of the team, something which usually fans would like to see, top sixes and top boundaries and all those. But I want to see, 10 instances where Virat Kohli got out and 0 runs, which is
Correct,
not something.
correct.
And that, are you saying that the video is not there in the repository, but combining the data and the content repository and AI, that video gets generated automatically,
So,
I get to see straight away?
It is possible. Okay, so firstly, there are more nuanced examples of, it's not just Virat Kohli getting out on 0, but there are data points that tell me Virat Kohli getting out on zero, trying to hit a lofted shot and caught at silly point, for example, and multiple such examples. And while the process of video creation is also preemptive, because there are rules, there are certain trigger points that are written in the backend that when such an event happens, just create this clip. And then it's a combination of, these clips are layered with data algorithms, okay? Now there are algorithms that, like the example that I gave you, classify whether this event qualifies to be a best or not. And it goes through this layer, and it all happens on the cloud and so fast in a matter of milliseconds that, that data is processed, and let's say in about 30 to 60 seconds, a video clip is available for the user to consume. And an editor may not have curated it earlier, right? And this is just happening on the fly.
Oh, that's amazing. I don't know if, I didn't know for sure, but I hope people, not only in this room or this hotel, generally are people aware of this?
Yeah,
As a
there
normal
are.
user who's just using mobile and wants to do this.
In sport, because there is, the potential of automation, you could, and there are companies like us and other competitors around the world, in India, in Europe, that are doing this. And but I am yet to see the true potential of this getting unlocked on platforms in India.
Okay, maybe early days, and we'll see as
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, similar question. How in your work that you're doing, getting communities to play sports, how is data and etc. getting used? Specific, if you share one or two examples.
See, data for us is actually just understanding people, right? And I mean, it's both a great advantage and a challenge for us to operate in a country like India, right? Because there are such diverse, user behaviors and, cultural differences among people, that it's a challenge to learn how people think in different parts of India, how people spend their day in different parts of India, how people of different ages. And I'll give you a lot of examples of, we started out in Delhi, right? And for example, in Delhi, the 1 hour where the most number of people played football was 7 to 8 p.m. Right? So it makes sense, right? I mean, it's like you get free from work, or if you're a student, you're in college. On the way back home, you have a game, or in the evening or on weekends, you go for a game, and after that, go out for a drink or a meal with your friends. So it makes sense, right? And then we expanded, we entered Mumbai. Right? It took us a year to understand, looking at the data, that actually 7 to 8 p.m. is nowhere near the most popular time for people to play football in Mumbai, right? It was actually more towards 9 to 10 p.m., right? And it's just the dynamics of the city, right? It's and we realized that, okay, now if we are launching a new city, we need to unlearn whatever we've learned, and actually the data is pointless, right? So I have millions and millions of games that have happened in Delhi. They're actually not telling me much about the behavior of a Mumbai or a Bangalore or a Hyderabad or even a Chandigarh or any other city, right? And those were sort of the learnings that, we've made us realize that, okay, we are capturing these crazy amounts of data to learn user behavior, but let us not get lost in it, right? I mean, let us, every new location, and it would be there for all of us, right? I mean, a fan in Chennai would have very different, cultural background and a way of thinking about consuming sport versus a fan in Delhi versus a fan in any other city, right? And that's actually, I think, very unique to India in terms of a problem and an opportunity. I can give you tons of examples, right? I can give you examples that a 35-year-old is more, who's playing badminton has a 20% chance of also playing cricket as a recreational activity, but a 35-year-old, 30 to 35-year-old playing football will practically never play any other sport, right? Unless they get an injury and they want to avoid contact sports. There is, I've given you the Delhi-Mumbai example. There are tons of such interesting data points, right? In terms of the gender split between, the amount of women participating in racket sports versus team sports, right? And it was an eye-opener actually that we have about, I think in our on our platform, only about 5% of team sport participation is women, but about 25% of racket sport participation is women. And actually, again, it's a good example of, you can easily get lost in that data and say that, okay, women prefer playing racket sports more, right? But the fundamental truth is that you need fewer people to play a game of badminton with versus a game of cricket or football, right? Now, if there are fewer women playing sport, then if I want to play a game of, if I am a woman and I want to play a game of badminton with another woman, it's easier to find one more person than 10 more women to play with, right? So actually we can get lost in that data and say that, okay, women prefer playing badminton more. But it's just, the honest truth is that that's not true. We don't have enough data yet to say that if there were enough cricket players out there, would women also prefer to play cricket or football, right? So it's actually a double-edged sword when we look at these data points and realize that, okay, is this serious? Are we looking at this and realizing that this is telling us something? Or actually is it just telling us the absolute wrong thing and taking us in the wrong direction, right? So it's too much data and very difficult to make sense of what's correct, what's not. Which is a problem that all of us have, right? I mean, it can lead you down a pit hole of the absolute wrong strategic initiatives if you're looking at it wrongly.
Absolutely, that is true with anything actually. The data is there, but whether it is, representative enough, and as you said, it depends on city, location, gender, age group, so on and so forth. So as I told you now, from all of us, most of us will be using wearables, at least in this room. Yeah, I hope so. I don't know which brand. I'm not going to do that survey whether how many of using your brand, but with so much data that any wearable company, including yours, has access to. Of course, respecting the laws of the land, data privacy laws, DPDP rules have just come out a few days ago. And then any other laws that are there, how exactly are you leveraging that data? And the same question as I posed to him, how are you using beyond the traditional tech ways, how is AI getting used within the laws of the land? Some examples, whichever is shareable, you could share with all of us.
I think one of the most interesting use cases we are seeing so primarily there are two things, right? One is preventive. There are a lot of technology and which is known and democratized by big players, which is, let's say, fall detection. Fall detection is a use case that a lot of people want to give their parents watches so that if they're not with them and if they fall, they can get an alert or a call, right? Or they can be an ambulance integration, right? Fall detection is one of the biggest use cases. It requires a lot of data, a lot of movement on the device for you to actually detect that, right? Heart rate anomalies, right? Sleep apnea. These are a bunch of use cases which are related to your lifestyle. But if I want to talk about something which is new and upcoming is with the advent of AI, it's called coaches. So the problem is that a sports person today will get a personal coach, right? I mean, and for that person to get a focused attention from one person, tracking every metric all the time, ensuring that there is no injury, there is enough rest, is done by a coach, right? And any kind of food supplements, any kind of nutrition, sleep, everything is monitored by a coach. Now, if you want to really democratize this for an individual, you need to start using your wearable and you have to build an AI coach, right? So we are seeing something very interesting which is happening, that people want to now get AI coaches. So they don't want to speak to a dietitian, they don't want to speak to a gym trainer, they don't want to really speak to one person. All they want is that one device is that capable enough to act as a coach and do that, right? So, and there are different use cases. So in India, one of the most common cases is weight loss coach, right? People they don't want to get healthy, they don't want to get, slim, they want to lose weight. I want to lose 5 kg. Now, let's say if you want to build that. Now, today, during a wearable, if I just spitball with you guys, you can really track today how much you are walking, so how many calories you're burning, right? While you're sleeping, while you're operating, right? With AI, you can also start logging what you're eating, right? It can give you a diet plan. You can log that diet plan. It can actually extract from the image itself. There are a lot of players that do that today, right? Which will extract calories. So it'll tell you, okay, if you're supposed to lose 5 kgs in the next 3 weeks, on day 1, you're supposed to burn this amount of calories. This is what you've eaten. So you're in deficit or you're in, you're eating too much, right? These capabilities are available today. And similarly, if I'm talking about weight loss coach, there is sleep coaches, there's a running coach, there's an endurance coach, there's a lifestyle coach, there is a wellness coach, there is a readiness coach, right? There's an emotional health coach. So a wearable today can track so many data points from your heart rate, from your stress aspects, from your movement, right? Converting them using a lot of machine learning and algo today and generating insights and then actually helping you improve is where a lot of power lies, as we see, right? There are interesting use cases also. So, like on the sports bit that you mentioned, we always say this, that whenever there is an interesting India-Pakistan match or a FIFA World Cup, if you start tracking the heart rate of people who are wearing, you'll see these spikes being up and down, right? And very different among kids, very different among females, very different among, if Virat Kohli is playing, if is a massive phonetics. Now the phonetics heart rate are very different from, let's say, a person who's just dilly-dallying, right? Like you mentioned. So all these use cases are very interesting. We have seen people who have would do, whenever you're stressed, you're watching a match and let's say your favorite cricketer gets out. So your watch face is there and it'll get changed, right? So it show you your stress. You need to calm down, right? So there are a lot of use cases with a wearable, whether the form factor is a ring, a band or a smartwatch, doesn't matter. Ability for it to kind of generate a lot of insights and then really help you do what you want to do, right? Those personalized use cases for yourself is what we're seeing is getting unlocked really fast in the market.
Thank you so much. Your customer base is wide actually, from active sports persons to weight loss, and this is a good time, month of January, for weight loss people, I think. So yeah, that's.
The maximum sales actually for all if you look at Healthify or any player like us or a lot of other players, the maximum unlocks happen in 2025 Jan because that's where people make the most resolutions, like so mentioned here, right? That's where people commit most. The good part is that a lot of people stick around, but as I said, it's a difficult protocol, right? It's a journey. So that's where it becomes very interesting. So if you have a coach to help you and not make you stress out at January 1st, like you have to go and run on a treadmill, versus saying, okay, don't run, just walk today, tomorrow we'll take it easy, right? Stuff like that. So that's where it becomes very personalized.
And exactly, knowing all this information, of course, all the e-commerce people, they also run their Republic Day sale, which starts from like 10-15 days before Republic Day and will go probably the entire month, offering good packages. So good going, overall. Okay, guys, I think audience, again, I'm back to you. Any questions this time? Any comments, suggestions? If none, then I can't see any hand being raised. Okay, we did ask you, after the first round, but if there anything additional which has come up, but I think everybody's understood very well. Yeah, that I'm not telling. The other option is there, which, So we can, I learned a lot, especially, from areas, democratization of data and this video on the fly using AI. From you, statistics and data around, 35-year-old lady in Thane will play badminton, but 35-year-old lady in Gurgaon may play, something else. That kind of insights, and not only Gurgaon and Thane, even zip code, pin code wise, etc. And little bit I shared on an F1 car, how much data it generates and how its data is as much, it contributes to car design to winning, those tournaments, etc. So it's really interesting and still early days, but with new tech, different range of data which is available, early days for generative AI for sure. It's only from 2022, November 30th, it came in from the Stanford labs to the hands and palms of our individuals through mobile phones. So we'd only see more and more amalgamation of data, technology, community building into the professional sports to weight loss enthusiasts. Thank you everybody for your time.